Of videos that will describe the function of Topaz Studio for basic post-processing. This is a very interesting program because it has a lot of power and it has the added benefit is that it can be used on both Windows and Macintosh machines, and it doesn't cost anything. So I think you're going to see that this is a really interesting program. Now I have it on my menu bar down here on my Mac alongside of all the other programs that I use for photography like Photos and iMovie and two versions of Photoshop because you just can't have one, and of course Lightroom. So all I have to do is double click on Topaz Studios and it brings it up. I also have set up a folder where I have the pictures that I'm going to be processing. You don't have to do this, it just makes it easier for me to do the demonstration. So the first picture, I just want to take this picture of a model. It was done to demonstrate various lighting. This is sort of in an area of open shade. Almost more in the sunlight than I would want it to be. And you look at this picture, and there's a couple of really nice things about it. First, she's a very good-looking young woman. And second is that you have a nice blurred-out background, so the portrait's going to stand out from the background. We did that because it was on a telephoto lens shooting at a very wide aperture. Probably f2.8, but the problem with taking pictures outside, especially portraits outside, is that you get this dark shadow under the eyes, and it's really you know, a pretty common problem and something that you can easily fix in post-processing. Okay, so before I go into the post-processing, I just want to say that there's a number of things that we want to be able to look at. First of all, in the menus, there's the save is under the file menu. In editing, you can have a reset, so it can take you all the way back. The Command Z or Control Z in Windows will step back one. It's pretty typical kinds of keyboard shortcuts. Now, don't get confused with all this stuff. It's really not something that you have to worry about. It's really more for if you buy the other adjustments, the non-free ones. I'm just going to get rid of them for right now, just to make it so that we can concentrate on the image. Now, going over here, before we do anything, the question is, do we need to do any healing? We can do cropping beforehand. Do I want to crop this down a little bit? Maybe that puts her eye almost exactly at the PowerPoint. That's sort of nice. So I think we'll do that. Say done. Okay, and takes a minute. The blue line goes across. It signifies that it's been finished. You look at this, not only do you have the problem with the raccoon eyes, but you know, you really lost some detail in the hair. But if you look at the histogram here, really there really isn't any clipping, and there certainly isn't any clipping on the highlight area. So I think we're going to be able to make the adjustments pretty easily. So I'm going to go here to adjustments. I'm going to pick up the basic adjustment. Remember, all these adjustments above the line, all these, are free. Okay, so now I have exposure, clarity, shadow, highlights, a black and white level, and saturation and white balance. I can do all those things for free. Now, they also give you a few presets. And if you just click on the little button there, you can see, and it almost instantaneously changes. It's really pretty cool. You know, this is the cooler one, this is the darker one. Well, that's not what I want. Reduce saturation, no, that's not bad, but not quite increased saturation isn't what I want, and certainly warmer. Actually, brighter is getting to be where I want to be. So I think that this is a really, it's a good start, okay? And I may even want to increase the exposure a little bit more because I'm really looking to see that those eyes look better. I've got nice detail in her hair, and this is pretty good right now. Again, let's go back and look at this before and after. I mean, you can just see that's really, quite nice. Okay, so the question comes up about clarity. Now, the preset brings in a little clarity. I want to just make this a little bit bigger, and I want to look at her skin. Clarity can go either way. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad in portraits. I'll show you the bad. If I push the clarity all the way up, it just looks awful. Okay, nobody would want a portrait like that. On the other hand, this is where they had it. On the other hand, taking the clarity down actually softens the skin, and especially for women, it really makes them look good. So I think that looks very nice. Okay, so let's get this back to where it's supposed to be. All right, and I say, pretty good. Okay. Now, what's nice about Topaz is that you can actually save these settings. And the reason I'm going to save them is because I've got another picture which was taken at the same time, slightly different pose, but I don't have to go back and retouch the whole thing. I can just bring up the save settings. So here's how you do it. You go over here and you say Save Effect, and I'm just going to call this Topaz Test. Okay, and they're going to say OK. Now, what I would do with this, it also says Topaz Test has been saved. I would want to save this. All right. Now, it automatically saves it into the spot that I had it. Okay. I can get rid of it now, and now I'm going to bring up there it is. Here's the second one that was done in this series. Slightly different pose, okay? But I basically want to do the same thing, all right? Now, to find you go to My Effects. Now, I have a whole bunch of effects here, and they're listed alphabetically. And you can see just making this one click, and we should get to a pretty nice looking portrait. There we go. Again, pre and post, very nice. Okay, so we have here a really pleasant portrait of this young lady. Now, I'm going to show you another thing that you can do under the free is, let's say I wanted to put another adjustment in here, and one of the adjustments is blur. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to increase the blur quite a bit. And I don't really care that she's being blurred out too. I'm going to do a little more than I normally would do. But let's say it's there, because what I'm interested in doing is blurring the background. And here's the real power of Topaz Studio. It's with masks. Now what I want to do is I have a mask here that is a white mask. So everything that I have done in this adjustment, the blur, is coming through. But if I take a brush and I take some black paint and I just start brushing in here, you're going to see that no longer will I have that blur. Okay, and once I get it in a little bit, I can start making much finer so here you see a example of using a mask to I think improve the picture. Now I can turn the whole blur off and on, and you can see that actually does make it look better. Now I would spend a lot more time on making this mask better. Okay, you know, this clearly down here needs to be worked on, and the edge of her hair and her ear needs to be worked on, you know. But you would spend time doing that kind of stuff, and it's just a question of how much effort you're going to put into it. But this is a very simple way of using masks. We're going to discuss masking in detail on the next video. And again, of course, I want to save this. And that ends this first video.